But I'd like to introduce Jill Pernice, the Deputy Assistant Director of Operations for the state of Arizona, and David Strayer, the Operations Coordinator also with the state of Arizona.
Thanks, Brandy. Can everyone hear us okay so far? More like not great with technology. But we appreciate everyone being here today. We are very excited to talk about our internship program. Our story kind of actually starts at the last academic forum that we were at in Corvallis about 3 years ago, was right when we started overhauling our program. So actually a lot of the ideas that we had that went into our program, I got from that conference. So thank you so much for that. That was a really great experience. So like Randy said, we're from Arizona, Phoenix to be specific. Phoenix is where our capital is. I think a TV show once described Phoenix as being a monument to man's arrogance, which we would absolutely agree with. A lot of the homes that are nearest to the Capitol were actually built pre-statehood and pre-air conditioning. So I'm not entirely sure how people thought that was the best idea, but they came out nevertheless, and now we're here today. If any of you saw us yesterday, I think David and I were probably the most ill-prepared and ill-dressed for the weather. It's already in the 80s and 90s at home, and we don't typically own winter clothes, so we're excited that it might snow today. We'll keep an eye on that. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe go back one more. That's okay. So I know Brittany introduced us a little bit, but I've been with the state for about 11 years now. I'm one of the few people on our team that does not have a procurement or supply chain background, and I also did not go to ASU. So I actually have a business and a finance background. I started doing budgeting at the governor's office and kind of found my way into procurement completely on accident. It was actually one of the least favorite things that I've done in the many things I've done in my career, but we've been here at ADOA now for about 4 years. David, I'm so excited I was able to bring him with me. So David came through my internship program, started right at the beginning of the pandemic in May 2020 when things were a little challenging. You know, things are on fire a little bit, and we threw him right into the mix. And he didn't miss a beat. He graduated from ASU this past December. So we're very proud of him for that. And we had an opportunity to retain him full time. So I jumped on that, didn't let him accept any other offers, and now he's here with us today. So I'm so grateful that he's a nice ambassador for our program. So learning objectives. I was getting nervous when we had to do presentations and there's like training people in the room. I feel like I have to do these things. It's the same way at home. But for today, we're planning on talking about what some of the successful elements are of our internship program and also how you might be able to incorporate that within your own state. So much like our previous presenter, we're going to try to get through a lot of topics, and I think we can do it. We'll try to stay on time, but we're going to talk a little bit about how we put our program together, why it looks like the way that it does today, how we do recruiting, which in my opinion is one of the most important aspects of our program. So we're going to talk a lot about recruiting today. What some of the tools and opportunities are that we give to our interns, what that looks like day to day through mentoring and other activities. One of my favorite things about our program, and we heard Ashley talk about this a little bit this morning, and I'm looking forward to this texting etiquette this afternoon to see if we need to revise our material, but we focus a lot on soft skills development too. So we'll take a little bit of a look at that. I will absolutely talk about our academic partners. I'm hoping Jeff Macias is joining us virtually through ASU, who we do quite a bit of work with. And then we'll talk a little bit about what our program results look like. So we have these polling questions. Are they entered into anything? If not, it's okay. That's okay. Let's skip it.
No,
Yeah. All right. So we have a question to start with. So our question is, what do you believe the main goal of an internship program should be? We have 3 choices. A, the purpose should be preparing young professionals to enter a career in public procurement. So raise of hands, who thinks that should be the purpose or main purpose, I'd say. Okay, got a couple. B, it should be to prepare future full-time employees to enter a role at their own central procurement office. So keeping them with us. Who thinks that should be the main purpose? I would love for this to be the main purpose, but it doesn't always go that way. Yeah, and what about C? Purpose of an intern is to take care of administrative tasks so I can do other things that I probably think are more important. No. Just kidding. So when we first started redoing our program, we polled our office with the same question. We polled our interns and we polled our full-time folks. And it was really quite interesting because the majority of our full-time folks answered A and B. They said the purpose should be to have a pipeline to develop future procurement folks. We want this to be meaningful. But when we asked the interns if their experience reflected that, their response was overwhelmingly no. We don't even, a few of them told me, I don't know why we're here. You know, when I started, no one knew I even worked here for a week. I didn't have a computer. People make me make their coffees. And oh my gosh, this sounds horrible. So that was one of the reasons we wanted to take another look at what we were doing. So based on that information and some other kind of data gathering that we did, we sat down and we thought a lot about what is the purpose of our internship? Because based on the exercise we just mentioned, you know, the purpose should match what we're doing. And in the last 3 years, we've been relentless about this. The purpose of our program is to develop young professionals to enter the workforce, ideally with us. But even if not, you know, we want to have people leaving our program being good ambassadors, not only of public procurement, but of our organization. You know, they leave with ADOA pasted on their resume, you know, so I want people to have a good impression of the work that they've done with us. People in our office might say that I stick to this too harshly, but I am relentless about our folks having a value-adding experience when they're with us, and we'll talk more about this later, but if the work isn't value-adding, we don't do it, the end. The purpose is not for them to be your temp or your executive assistant. The purpose is for them to have a value-adding academic experience that's going to turn them into those good young professionals going into the workforce.
Next. So a few years ago, before I started with the state procurement office, our internship program wasn't as structured as we would like it to be. A lot of interns, like Joe mentioned, left unsatisfied with their experience. So Jill and the hub of others actually revamped the internship program to closely align the structure of the program to the purpose and goal of our program. So with that being said, our internship program mainly consists of these 3 areas. So the first area is the contract life cycle shadowing. Each intern gets assigned a contract manager and a solicitation, and they actually get to shadow the solicitation from beginning to end, getting that direct public procurement experience. And as well, we have a huge emphasis on soft skills development and overall just getting them ready to enter the professional environment. So Jill actually hosts a full training suite of soft skills, which includes meeting facilitation, written and verbal communication, and things of that nature, just to get them prepared for the workforce. And then they also have lots of opportunity on a daily basis to actually practice and apply these skills with, like I said, leading and facilitating meetings, reaching out to people in different agencies, and just collaborating on a whole lot of projects with a lot of different teams. And then the last portion that our internship program is really structured on is the help request. So we actually have an intern help request form because our interns basically serve as a support function for our entire division. So employees can submit intern help request forms that get funneled straight to the interns. But like Joe mentioned, we oversee what they do to make sure they're not doing unmeaningful work. We only want them to be doing value-adding requests, not just administrative tasks just to, you know, take some work off someone's plate. So recruiting for fit and return on investment, we attend about 1 to 3 career fairs a semester. And what I love about attending career fairs is that you really get to bring exposure of public procurement to college students, because in my experience, at least, a lot of college students aren't really aware of public procurement really. So with that being said, when we attend career fairs, we really highlight the benefit of the public sector, working for the public sector, and really look for students that have interests in that area, such as, you know, working for a meaningful organization and doing a lot of value-added works and projects. So in addition to attending career fairs, we also participate in a mock interview workshop conducted through a supply chain management association at ASU. And we find very good benefits of attending this workshop because we get to furthermore connect with students. And just recently, we did a mock interview with the student. We really liked him, and we connected him with another employee in another division. He actually had an internship for that. So we just get to furthermore connect and network with students. Then lastly, we exclusively use the Handshake platform for a lot of our recruiting. We sign up for career fairs. We get to sign up for one-on-ones with students and message and chat to students. So if you guys are starting to look and how to recruit for students, Handshake is definitely the place to go and use.
So we're definitely very big on recruiting for Fit and ROI, and these activities that we just went through are real activities that we do every semester when we're considering new students. So that questionnaire helps us quite a bit to whittle down students. Typically, each semester we get somewhere between 50 and 100 applications for maybe 1 or 2 positions. So our program is actually quite competitive. We have a lot of good students to choose from, so it's hard to make a decision, but that's a great problem for us to have. We also use a tool called the Predictive Index. We were talking with some folks about this last night during the reception, but it's a behavioral assessment tool that helps identify what a person's natural behavioral tendencies are. So this helps us put together a diverse team that has different strengths. And I don't have 4 very outgoing students that all want to be the team leader and they argue with each other all the time. You know, we have a mix of students that kind of complement each other's natural tendencies and they can work well as a team. So would love to talk about that more offline if anyone has any questions about it. We're very interested in high value candidates. And like we talked about before, that's very different for an intern than it is for full-time. So you kind of have to take off your normal recruiter hat and think a little bit differently, just like we talked about in the activities. Things that would make a full-time candidate a good person to hire, the rules aren't the same for an intern. Likely no one's gone through any soft skills training with that intern. They probably won't call you back if you leave them a voicemail because Gen Z doesn't use the phone. You need to text them, that's how it works. But you know, we're looking for people that have a good attitude. We're looking for people that want to learn. We're looking for people that want to help and interact and do all those good things. You know, I really don't care if someone comes in with a 4.3 GPA and they think they're the smartest person in the room and they don't want to learn anything. You're not going to be a good fit for my program because I can't teach you anything because you don't want to learn. So we definitely look in unusual places. Sometimes my boss questions my hiring decisions at the beginning, but some of the strangest hires that we've done have turned into the best graduates. And that's such an incredible success story for the program and how it works. So we like to look at things a little bit differently.
Awesome. So some tools that the interns use on a regular basis is a daily huddle. It's a quick 15-minute meeting every morning to kind of start their day off. They go over successes, any problems they might have ran into, a waste identification sheet. They also use Trello board for like a project management tool. It's basically like a flow chart. So this kind of gives Jill and I a good overview to see kind of the status of all the projects they're working on, since our internship program is project driven and orientated. And they also have weekly one-on-ones with their supervisor, which is Jill, and he's established a really good relationship. But Jill, did you want to elaborate a little bit on the one-on-ones and you kind of have them?
Yeah, and so based on some of the presentations this morning, our interns get a lot of one-on-one attention. Actually, it's not wrong this morning saying that they're different. Even the students in my program today are very different than the students I had 3 or 4 years ago. And they need those really individualized reach outs. They need to know that I care specifically about them. We need to talk about just the work that they're doing and how they feel about it. And you know, that's okay. We want to cater the experience to what works for them because that makes them more successful in our program. And if I'm not able to keep them when they graduate, that makes them great ambassadors, not only for our organization, but also for the public sector in general, and public procurement.
So some unique opportunities that sets our internship apart from other internships is one, extension of our full-time team. We really treat our interns as an extension of our full-time team. We don't make them go get coffees or coffee press. We really treat them as equals. And also long-term employment terms. My apologies. We don't have a set duration for our internship, whereas some internships are only for the summer or 8 to 12 week programs. Our internship is more like a part-time job, where the only requirement, as long as you're a student, you can still be an intern. So I was an intern for almost 1.5 years, and I think on average we retained for about a year, I would say. And we just found that 2 to 3 months is the learning curve. So if our internship program is only for 2 to 3 months, there's a lot of ways in training that intern to work for us. And also, they get a lot of freedom and flexibility when it comes to their projects that they're working on. We're kind of hands-off when it comes to their projects because we want them to learn and go out there and use those soft skills that we teach them to really get a hold of how to approach problem solving and work on projects. So we kind of are hands-off with their projects, but we're also there to support them if they have any questions that they might need.
And that freedom lends itself to a lot of opportunity for learning. More often than not, through failure, but it's okay because the risk is low and those opportunities where I allow them to do that. And those lessons are much more meaningful when they're learned that way. We have an instance right now, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we do the project assignment table activity, but I have a student right now who got asked to do a project from a team, and they basically handed it to him and like ran. And it's a big project, and I said, you know, Henry, I don't think you should do that if they're not gonna help you. They need to have ownership in it, or you shouldn't do it because they're using you. And he didn't want to say anything about it, so he chose to go on with the project, and I said, okay, you know, you can do that, but at the end of the project, you're now gonna have to figure out how to hand that back, because I'm not gonna allow you to run this after you've done the work. So every weekend is one-on-one. I talk about, hey, how's it going? And have you had to hand it out yet? Have you thought about what that's gonna look like, or how you're gonna talk to them about that? So I know it's really uncomfortable for him, but he'll never make that mistake again. You know, so great learning opportunity as well.
So mentoring, shadowing, and project activities. So like I mentioned earlier, each intern is assigned to a specific solicitation and contract manager to get that public procurement exposure to them. But also what's unique about our internship opportunity is you get a lot of opportunities to lead and shadow other high visibility projects. So when I first started as an intern back in May 2020, my first project right out of the gates was Mask Up AZ, which the governor reached out to us and basically asked us to facilitate and distribute 2 million facial masks to the general public. So the intern team was responsible for creating a phone ordering process and reporting those metrics to the Haynes team, the Department of Health Services team, to our operations team. And then simultaneously, another intern was working on an AZ shelter project, which was responsible for delivering PPE supplies and other supplies like water bottles, toilet paper, paper towels to over 100 shelters across the Arizona. So that's just a small sample of the projects that we get to do. So definitely value adding, meaningful.
I know David's being a little bit humble about that activity, but he co-led that project with one of my other full-time folks. They were the leads, you know, in these multi-agency meetings with very higher up people. They were the spotlight, you know, they were the ones making the game plans. They were the ones deciding, you know, Haynes, here's how this is gonna work. We need you guys to do this. And even though 2020 was really hard for everyone, like that was a really proud moment for me in our program, for them to get pushed into the gauntlet and succeed like they did. You know, I'm not sure what I expected as results. We didn't have much choice because we were doing so many other things at the time, but man, what an awesome learning experience that David might not have gotten if he had gone somewhere else to intern. So definitely appreciative of the experience we get to do.
And this was my first internship, so I was like, wow, what another day. So didn't know what to expect really, but definitely was not it. But it was a good experience for sure.
And that's our number one rule. If it's not value adding, we don't do it, period. Even if the intern doesn't have anything else to work on that day, we don't do these types of requests. You know, I don't set the precedents that you get to use and abuse them for whatever work you deem to be below you. Because that's not the purpose of us having them here. So we stick to that pretty hardcore. I'm sure David can tell me. I've gotten into a few arguments with our coworkers about why we're not going to do this. So another quick polling question. So what soft skills do you guys think are the most commonly absent from recent college grads that are looking for full-time roles? So who thinks written communication is most absent? By show of hands. A couple. Do you get written stuff in that's written like it's a text message?
Yes, or an Amazon review.
Yes. Yes. What about verbal communication? Has anyone observed that kind of missing from candidates? They like to talk, but not about the appropriate things and not in the appropriate way. It's kind of been our experience with students that are new to us. What about workplace professionalism? This one is a really hard one, especially for a lot of students that have now been doing virtual school for several years and have never worked in an office. You know, they come in and they're like, we're supposed to do what? I need to be here on time? Like, what are you talking about? What about resumes and interviewing?
Just to go back to see, well, workplace professionalism, I think that how important is it to be there at 8 a.m. sharp? And,
It depends.
well, I think if I was working in a production line, I think it'd be pretty important. But I'm working in an office that requires me to do, project related, I mean, that procurement is project related work. So if I get there at 8:15, unless I have a meeting at 8 AM, it,
Well, 100% agree.
Yeah.
We don't try, because I'm not gonna be there and either, so I'm not gonna-
yeah, right?
But the most current example of this that we experience, so with my interns, we all go into the office on Fridays. And so sometimes we have meetings or trainings that we need to do, and sometimes it's just we hang out and work together. We're still working on teaching them how to tell the difference. If we're just hanging out and working together, no, you don't need to be here at 10 on the dot. But if I'm planning on doing a training in person that day and on your calendar it says it starts at 10, your butt needs to be in this chair at 10 so we can start. And you know, coming from a very virtual world, it's challenging. So that's something that we work through, but definitely thanks for the comment. What about resumes and interviewing? How great have you seen students succeed with this? ASU does a pretty good job with this. We don't have a ton of issues in this area, but it's definitely case-by-case basis sometimes. What about being organized in the workplace? That's a hard one. I'm not good at this either. What about facilitating a meeting? That's a tough one, right? Some of my full-time folks still don't know how to do this very well. Awesome.
Can I add one more to that?
Sure.
From the service-centered approach.
Yes, we cover that in workplace professionalism and verbal communication, but yes, very good. So those are actually the 6 skills or 6 topics of soft skill development that we do. So I have training and content developed around each one of these topics. We go through a training, there's hands-on activities, and then in some of the project requests that we get, we look for opportunities to reinforce this. So if I get a request from an agency that might be a little upset about something, sometimes I ask the interns to draft my email response. How would you handle this uncomfortable situation? How do you respond in a way that addresses customer service appropriately and the customer feels like their needs are met? So we always look for those opportunities when they do something well. We recognize that within the larger group. We say, oh my gosh, you know, David wrote such this professional email, or we had an issue where we needed to put together some type of presentation and the director really loved it and he got kudos from that. Maybe he can show, you know, Henry or Tyler how to do that. This is some of the most fun we have, I would say, in our internship activities. They love the hands-on activities that we do at the end of these. The class favorite by far is meeting facilitation. So at the end of this meeting facilitation training, everyone gets a chance to practice. So someone gets assigned to be the meeting facilitator and the rest of us in the room get assigned to be the annoying roles that you guys experience in every meeting you've ever been in. And we put them through the gauntlet and they have to figure out how to run the meeting. And so everyone gets an opportunity to do that. It's really funny. But they learn from that too. You know, what are some things you can say if we're getting off topic? What are some things that you can help make sure that we stay on schedule? You know, how do you small talk people at the beginning of the meeting so that it's not uncomfortable? You know, all of these things are things that we talk about. So one of the most rewarding things when we have folks graduate out of the program is if I'm not able to keep them, and that hurts me a lot, but if I'm not able to keep them, they're highly desirable candidates. They do not have any problem finding a job because they come out with such high levels of aptitude in these areas because we practice them for 1 to 2 years. So this is an aspect of the program that I'm really proud of. So this is David at his graduation in December. But to talk a little bit about our collaboration with our academic partners, so we work directly with ASU quite a bit. We have a very strong relationship with the supply chain management program, both the professors and the student club that the students are a part of. We always present in the NASPO related nonprofit and public procurement class. We go to Jeff's class every semester that it's offered to talk about that. Sometimes we get invited to some of the other supply chain classes, but not as regularly. We also do collaboration with the research and negotiation course team. So one of the other neat ways that we're able to kind of evangelize public procurement to folks that have never heard about us is we do case studies with some of the classes where we offer up data and the students are able to do projects for us. We have a good relationship with Stan Vinicus and Jeff Macias. So usually our organization, we get the phone call when students can't find a business to work with. We get a back phone call that says, I have 3 groups that can't find a business, will you work with them? And we say, absolutely, because that's 12 more students that are going to get to learn about the public procurement sector that would have never heard about it otherwise. So those are great opportunities too. Like we talked about earlier too, we don't just interact with the supply chain program. We also work with Masters of Public Policy, Masters of Public Administration. We also have some interaction with the career services team. So we do go to other career fairs that are focused more at those other majors. Sometimes we participate on panels. We've done a few different things with career services for non-supply chain activities. So this is like usually the funnest slide for us to talk about it. So why would we recommend that you do any of these things? The reason that we would recommend that you think about doing a program similar to ours and maybe a little bit different is the results speak for themselves. So these 4 lovely looking individuals are my 4 current full-time employees that came through our internship program and are now full-time with us. So about 10% of our overall office team is comprised of interns that came through our program and are now full-time. We have about a 45% successful conversion rate. So of all of the interns that have come through the program, we've been able to bring on full-time a little less than half of them, which is a pretty good percentage. Each time that we're able to convert an intern to full-time, like we did with David, I'm able to avoid about $6,000 in cost avoidance from me going through the whole recruitment process to find someone from the outside. It saves me a ton of stress and work. So that's really nice when we're able to do that. Like we said too, our program is very highly competitive. I get more applicants than I know what to do with. This semester we had 2 positions that are going to be opening up in the summer. And we had 3 more really great ones that I would have loved to have kept. But I only had 2 positions. So great position for us to be in to have those tough decisions to make. We're definitely recognized as a best-in-class program, not only within our agency, but amongst the state. We talk a lot with other agencies and other entities who are looking to do something like ours, to kind of give pointers on how they might be able to do that. And then one of the other good things is we have a really high satisfaction rate. The people that come through our program really love the experience that they had, and we found that the structure that we've used is mutually beneficial for our full-time folks and for our interns.
So this is a picture of our current intern team. And it just displaying that is the hand gesture for the AHC symbol. So just want to throw that out there, guys.
And your mascot's what?
The mascot is the Sun Devil, so that's the 4 symbols.
Force.
Yeah, 4 steps. And then we also put together testimonial videos. People play from the presentation. Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
One of the key differences between SPO and other opportunities for other internships is really just the flexibility.
Turn it on.
I had previous interests and was intrigued by procurement, and really just overall had no idea what procurement was. And the state procurement office gave me the opportunity to just learn and like.
So on my first day of this internship, I was greeted by our mentor, David, and he was able to give me the inside loop of the team, what we're going to learn, what I'm going to do in the internship, as well as he was able to provide me with a complimentary lunch from Chick-fil-A.
What I like about working with SPO is that I never have to feel like I'm alone when working on my project. If I'm ever having trouble with their interns, are always there to support me. And not only their interns, but also other contract managers that ever need help. So it's nice not feeling alone on a project.
Actually, a previous intern in SPO actually moved full-time just a few months ago, and since I was a previous intern, I actually I do a lot of hands-on with interns, and it's just so great working with them because they have great attitudes, they bring in fresh ideas, and honestly, they're just a fun group to work with because they're around my age, they have good attitudes, they have just a good vibe and energy to them.
So the State Procurement Office gave me an opportunity that no other internship would. They oversaw my not ideal academic history. You know, as a college student, I know I don't have the best transcript, but I know the skill set I do bring every single day. With my attitude, my communication, just my overall effort.
And one of the things I like working about here is how it's helped me prepare for a professional career after I graduate. I've been learning a lot of technical skills from working alongside contract managers and helping them with their tasks. And also, I have monthly workshops
where we learn professionalism skills. So as a supply chain major student, one of the things we talk about is the 7 wastes and the 5 S's. So we previously went to a fast food restaurant. We went to In-N-Out Burger here on the West Coast and also Chick-fil-A. And we talked about the overlooking of the process. We're looking over the motion, defects, inventory, overprocess, pretty much any kind of waste that they have. And then we also talked about 5 S's, standardizing, sorting. I can't think of any of the rest.
Do you want to keep going or do you want to start?
I'll keep going.
Okay. But come back over here.
There's also
It's okay.
I should practice first before I go. So one of the daily things we do to communicate with the team in this virtual type of world, we have daily huddles. And pretty much we talk about our agenda for the day, if we have any questions, if anything we need help with. It's one of the ways we can still communicate with one another in this environment that we're living in. We are fortunate enough that we can go to our office. So on Fridays, us interns like to come into the office and have some kind of team camaraderie.
One of my favorite things about working at SPO as an intern is, dang it!
So one of the best things I gotta say for SPO has been my mentor. Since day one, he's been helpful to answer any of my questions. He's been my onboarding buddy, and really just been a calling card for me. So really, if I could just call out David Strayer right here, just give a quick shout out, just a quick panel to him. Everything he's done, I've been super appreciative. He's been super helpful for everything I've had, and really just part of the reason why I'm here.